I don't really care to see what teenagers are up to. Welcome to Groovy Movies. My name is Lily Austin.
And my name's James Brailsford. Hello.
Hello. And this week on the podcast, we are talking about one of my favourite films, directed by Jason Reitman.
One of your favourites.
That's right. God, James, you interrupted my flow. I was going to give it a big to-do.
Oh,
but yes.
Sorry.
It is.
Sorry. Took the wind right out of your sails there. I do apologise.
It's one of my favourite films. It is also directed by Jason Reitman. Also stars Elliot Page and Michael Cera, Jennifer Garner. It is, of course, Juno.
2007's Juno, absolutely.
That's right, yeah, 2007. So I must have been 50. Was I 15 when it came out? My God. Yeah, that makes sense because it was a very formative teenage movie for me. For me and my sisters as well. You know, we got the soundtrack, we listened all the time. My sister even bought the hamburger phone that you see Juno using in the film, which I was very jealous about. I don't think she ever actually installed it or used it, but you know, we just wanted, basically we wanted to be Juno and wanted to be in that world. What about you? Where did you see it?
Well, it totally passed me by when it came out at the time. It just didn't seem of any interest to me, I would say. It was my wilderness era, I would say. The mid-late noughties, I just kind of zoned out slightly of what was happening with filmmaking. And also just in general, like these kind of smaller, character-led, set in the real world, modern day contemporary films, they aren't my natural home. You know, like I'm more attracted to more stylistic, more, let's say, experimental, or anything more towards that is my go-to. So there were a lot of reasons why it just completely passed me by. And then I was reading a roundup of the year. It must have been at the end of 2007 or the start of 2008. It was, I think it was in Empire magazine. And they were interviewing a load of different filmmakers and asking them for their various highlights of the previous year. And they interviewed M. Night Shyamalan, and of course he was just starting to lose his edge. Like, he'd had two great films. He'd had two great films where I was fully believed he was going to be the next Steven Spielberg, and then he released Signed, which is around 2007. So it was just when everyone was like, hang on, is he actually the next Spielberg or not? Anyway, but they asked him what his biggest twist of a film of 2007 was. What was the biggest twist for him? And so this is Mr. Sixth Sense, Unbreakable. You know, he's been asked what his top twist was, and he said the ending of Juno. So that immediately put Juno on my top of my watch list, because I thought M. Night Shyamalan said this small little film about a pregnancy is like got the best twist of 2007. So that's what engaged me to want to go seek it out and kind of go watch it.
Oh, okay. I love that. That's really interesting. The twist at the end of Juno. It's a smart answer. I guess. Yeah,
kind of, because the drama weaves backwards and forwards. Sorry, we're skipping way ahead here, but you know, it is for me. I watched it and it worked as a twist. You know, I wasn't, or at least I couldn't quite work out how it got to the end, how it was all working out. The letter that Juno leaves. What's on the letter?
Yeah. Okay, well, let's just rewind and quickly, for anyone who has been living under a rock and doesn't know about this film, I'll give you the log line.
I'll leave you to do the plot summary, Lily, because you've basically transcribed with notes and thoughts and feelings the entire film in your show notes. I love it.
I know. Well, the thing is, the film is only an hour and a half, so we can actually kind of go through most of the film, and I think it's worth doing that because it's an incredible. I think it's pretty close to a perfect movie for those of us who do enjoy the naturalistic type of movie. But
yeah, it's. Oh, by the way, sorry. Having watched it, it's a great movie. No diss. That was just my mindset going into it.
But yeah, exactly. I totally understand your reservation, especially because, like, now at my age now, I'm not that interested in watching teen movies. I have to be told that it's, like, excellent. Like, I don't really care to see what teenagers are up to. So I totally understand. That's just my own personal thing. But I totally understand that, like, it would on the surface seem not necessarily like the film that you'd want to have seen at that moment. But anyway, the log line of the movie is, faced with an unplanned pregnancy, an offbeat young woman makes an unusual decision regarding her unborn child. I love the word, because I got this from IMDb. I love the use of the word offbeat, because when it's used to describe either people or films, it's only ever in like a review in the paper. No one ever in real life uses the word offbeat.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
But yeah, so basically we meet Juno. She's a snarky, very quick-witted, intelligent teenager. And within the first 2 minutes, we learn that she's rather adorably seduced Michael Cera. They had sex. She is now pregnant and has to decide what to do with the baby. And rather than have an abortion as she initially plans, she decides to find a couple to adopt the child. And we kind of follow her throughout the 9 months of her pregnancy. It's kind of nicely sectioned into the seasons of this year.
Yeah, no, it really kind of explores something that I'd never seen in a film before. This idea of what are you going to do when you're pregnant at that young an age. And I wasn't expecting that would be Juno's solution. But again, her being this, what was it said in the IMDb script again? She's an eccentric or a quirky...
Offbeat.
Offbeat. So yeah, so it's a suitably offbeat solution to the predicament she finds herself in.
Yeah, and that's what you said, M. Night Shyamalan said about it. That is definitely something that I love about the film, is it's completely, the whole way through, it's surprising. Every decision she makes is not expected. And just the film in general takes lots of surprising turns, and all the characters change in surprising ways. And so he's totally right that there is a great twist at the end of that film. I think because I've seen it so many times, I forget the twist element. But I think that is a big part of the film, the fact that how many movies have we seen about teen pregnancy? Not really that many. When we think of teen pregnancy, we think of reality TV shows about teen mums in that same era that kind of, there's a moralizing subtext to it, and it's very much of these two options of like abortion, which, there's all this controversy around, particularly in the States, or having a child as a teenager, which, oh my gosh, as a character in the film says, is a poisonous environment to bring up your child. And this other alternative, this giving your child up for adoption, I've never really seen that in a film before, and done in a way that's there's so much warmth and heart to the film and so much comedy. So I love that about it.
I mean, it's a will they, won't they film, but rather than it being about a romantic relationship, it's about will she or won't she go ahead with giving up her child to this couple? That's the kind of the thing that's played with throughout the film.
Do you think? I don't find that it's about that, because I feel like she's so clear from the beginning. Oh no, you're having this baby. I'm not going to have this baby. I never was in any doubt that she was going to give up the baby. I feel like it's more of a film about different kinds of relationships and what love can be. There's like the main story of just her experience of dealing with her pregnancy. Then also alongside it, there's her relationship with Michael Cera's character, who is her best friend. And they did it the wrong way round, as she says at the end of the film, and like had sex first. But subsequently, her feelings for him are growing, and she's kind of navigating that. And then as well as that, we have the couple who are planning to adopt the child, Jennifer Garner and Jason Bateman. And we watch as their relationship disintegrates, which is brought on by the decision to adopt. And so I feel like those two, and then also following Juno's parents, her mum, her stepmom, and her dad, and seeing their kind of solid relationship. I feel like the film,
Alison Janney and J.K. Simmons,
two fantastic actors. We've both quite protruding eyes, which I remember in the director's commentary, Jason Reitman saying that he was always drawn to an actors, and he thinks that's why he cast them.
And interesting to see J.K. Simmons, because we've seen such a lot of him in the past 10, 15 years. I think he's grown in popularity. But it's interesting to see him in a very much calmer role. He normally plays characters who've got a bit more bite to them. So it was interesting coming back to this film film, because the last time I saw it was about 10 years ago. So it was interesting to just see that. I was like, oh, right, a very different J.K. Simmons performance, less angry. But the first time I saw... No, sorry, not the first time I saw this. The second time I watched this film was on a date in Alaska, and it was round at this woman's house that I was watching the film, and she had, I think, her nephews who were visiting, these like teenage boys, and so we all started watching it together, but the boys got bored within like 10 minutes once they realised it was about a girl being pregnant. They were just like, we're going out to do some shooting with their guns, because it was Alaska, and so they disappeared for an hour, and we continued watching the film, and then they came in all pumped up because they'd shot their guns for a bit, and they're like, the first thing they said as they came was the film was still on, they were like, has she not had the damn baby yet? I was like, boys, this is the whole point of the film, I'm afraid, and this was your number one stumbling block with it.
Oh my God, that's incredible. And what an incredible date to have been on.
Yeah.
James, you never cease to amaze me. I didn't even know you'd been to Alaska.
Something took to it.
Incredible.
Oh, yeah. I lived and worked in Alaska for 2 months. I lived in a log cabin, and out of my window was a view of 2 mountains, snow-capped mountains. It was wonderful.
Incredible. Okay,
working on Discovery... Anyway, sorry.
No, go on. What were you working on? Or better
No, I was working on Discovery Channel's Gold Rush, the Gold Rush program. I don't know if any listeners have heard of that show about gold miners in Alaska. Yes, I was directing that show, part of my TV career. Managed to fit in a date to watch Juno while I was out there.
With some gun-toting teens hanging around. It sounds... thrilling.
Yeah, and actually my date was actually a waitress from the diner along this road, and it turns out that, because they say that everybody in Alaska has a story, like if you're not born in Alaska, there's a story why you're there, and she was on parole from some felony offence that she'd committed.
Do you know what the crime was? Did you ask?
Yeah,
or did you know better than to?
It was her partner had done some, I can't remember, he was a drug dealer, I think. Anyway, she perverted the course of justice. She lied on his behalf to try and get him off the hook, which is like immediately grand jury felony, something or other, But anyway, she was I think she was in prison for... Anyway,
you were going to get mixed up with the likes of them on your 2-month holiday.
Yeah.
Sorry, your 2-month working trip to Alaska.
Yep.
Incredible scenes. Okay, great. Well, I look forward to a kind of Ozark-style film based on
my time in Alaska.
Exactly. But back to Juno.
Sorry.
I really want to talk about Diablo Cody, the screenwriter of the film, because she is a very interesting writer. I think it's quite rare that we know the name of the screenwriter behind a film.
She was very much a star writer at this time.
Yeah, she was. This movie kind of made her a superstar, and she was like a huge part of the promotional tour of Juno when it first came out. When I was doing my research, she did in almost every interview. She and Jason Reitman did the audio commentary together, which I used to watch the movie with the commentary on almost like on a monthly basis. I was obsessed with it. They had this,
really?
Yeah, they had this incredible report. I was trying to find it online actually because it was so good and so interesting. And there's no way of watching it online. I found one PowerPoint presentation someone had posted online where they'd taken notes, but from my recollection the notes weren't fully accurate, so it didn't give me what I needed. But you know what I was thinking?
This is a sad state of affairs, though, isn't it? Is that trying to get a DVD commentary now, it's so difficult. If you haven't got the DVD, they just disappear into the ether.
Well, this is the thing. I need to talk to you about this because I feel like directors' commentaries are almost like a pre-podcast, especially when it was more than one person, like Love Actually. Not a film that I particularly like, but it has quite a good director's commentary because it's the director, Richard Curtis, Hugh Grant, the little boy, whatever his name is, sorry to that actor, and Colin Firth, and, I've forgotten his name, but the guy who plays the rock star in it, that amazing actor.
Bill Nighy.
Bill Nighy, yes, they are all there watching it together and giggling and, discussing and talking about memories from the film. It's fantastic. So anyway, so that kind of casual discussion about the film, it's literally like a film podcast.
Yeah, you're right.
And I was thinking about, I was like, God, when they came up with that, this wasn't a thing with video. This came with DVDs where, we've got so much space, we can put on as much as we want. Let's add these bonus extras to entice the viewer to buy the DVDs.
Yeah.
We're going to do bonus features. We're going to have this commentary. And I'm like, how do we get that back? How do we make that a worthwhile thing to do again? Because it was incredible. And it just depresses me that we can't get hold of them anymore. They're just like,
I know,
gone.
It's sad. It's like a bit of a black hole that's happening. It's because I learned so much about filmmaking. Like, I still regard the American Beauty DVD as like a film school in a commentary. So when you get sometimes you get one and it's just like tittle tattle gossip, and I don't know.
I love
sometimes they're a bit unsatisfying. But
Give me the tittle tattle gossip.
No, I want my facts. I want my filmmaking facts. I want my behind the scenes.
Tell me about your date in Alaska.
No. Just keep the good stuff. But what I've noticed is that, for example, Michael Mann's Ferrari, which I haven't seen, I'm getting pushed on Instagram. I could pay money to essentially get my own DVD extras, but it's like a streaming service. So you can go behind the scenes. You can access like all the scripts, all the storyboards, lots of behind the scenes footage. So it's like having DVD extras, but essentially you stream it rather than have to buy a physical product, which I think is kind of smart, but I don't think it'll be that popular.
No, I think we've all got to. I think I would love it if they could add it as a feature, on Netflix or wherever you're finding your film. Just because it's like, what a waste. Like, let's put it out there, Because the whole
business model, as we like to go on about streaming, it's fucked it, quite frankly, because think about it. They don't need to entice you to buy an individual Netflix film, whereas the whole point of the DVD extras was to entice you
but I'm just
to pay that money.
Sorry to interrupt. God, I'm so passionate about this subject. But I know that there is no, you don't need to, but I'm just saying, we've got them now. For all the movies that came before the streamers, we have these amazing DVD commentaries. Just put it out there so I can select to have it playing over the film. But I know that will cost something. It's not going to happen.
Rights issues.
I'm going to start an NGO just for directors' commentaries. I don't want them to be lost to the sands of time. But anyway, back to Diablo Cody. The thing that I love about this director's commentary was the rapport that Jason Reitman and Diablo Cody had. They had such an amazing kind of connection and chemistry between them that it made sense as to why she was so involved in the film, because it was not normal for a screenwriter to be as involved as she was. But tell me about about the kind of origin story of her writing this film, right, James?
Well, I only know a little bit, which is that she found work for a while as a stripper, and she wrote a blog about her experiences. It seems like she was quite a prolific blogger. Just having a look, she had different types of blogs. One where she blogged as a certain type of character, but this was about her real life experiences, and she found it just got very popular. So that's kind of where she was coming from, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this guy, Mason Novick, found her blog, loved it, and reached out to her and said, can I be your manager? Let's get you.
I'm going to make you a star.
I'm going to make you a star. You should write a screenplay. And she was like, okay, you weirdo. This sounds creepy. But eventually she kind of was convinced to work with him, but said I've got this book I've written a memoir about my experiences, which wasn't really his bag. He really wanted to get her into screenwriting, but he was like, okay, fine. So they published the book together. And then it was like, okay, now I've done that for you. Will you now please write a screenplay for me on spec? So she wrote the screenplay ostensibly with the plan that they would put it out in Hollywood and it would get her work as a script doctor. The plan hadn't been, before she wrote it wasn't that this would actually get made necessarily. Most scripts don't.
Right.
But the minute that she finished it, and she wrote it in 2 months, so she was just like every day, banged it out. Apparently, I remember her saying on the director's commentary that there was a particular scene towards the end of the film. Helpfully, I can't remember which scene it was, but there was a scene that she couldn't wait to write. But she was so green to screenwriting, and she'd never done it before. She didn't really know that you could just write any scene you want at any time. So every day she was like, oh, one day closer to getting to write the scene I'm excited about.
I mean, I guess it's a way to get motivated to keep going.
Totally, yeah. And she said, I watched an interview of her more recently, and she said, it used to be that I had to squeeze in my moments to write. It was a luxury. I was working at night. I was working also in the day, doing lots of different jobs. And so she had to really seize every moment she had free to write. And now that she is, as her job, a writer, it's hard to get the drive, and she could never write as fast as she did on Juno.
Difficult second album syndrome, isn't it? The kind of drive that you had for your first album
Absolutely.
or your first piece of work, suddenly you get comfortable.
Yeah, you need that hunger. But then, as soon as the script was put out there in Hollywood, there was so much buzz around it. We've talked about The Blacklist before. It was the hottest film on the Blacklist. Everyone wanted this screenplay. And after a few different directors pitched for it, Jason Reitman got it. And basically, they just started working together on it through the whole way through. I feel like usually that's not the way it goes, right? The screenwriter, once they've sold it, that's kind of their job done. But
yeah.
She was on set every single day.
Which is very much what a showrunner would do in a TV series. If you're a showrunner, you have much more power over the entire production of the TV show than perhaps you might do as a screenwriter on a feature film. So that her being on set every day, that's very much like a showrunner, and that kind of is interesting because the thing that I've watched much more than Juno that I've watched of Diablo Cody's is the 3-season TV series that she did for Showtime that was exec produced by Steven Spielberg, which was United States of Tara. So, again, for a second project after Juno, to be working with Steven Spielberg and to be showrunner and lead writer of her own TV series, pretty good going.
Wow. I remember hearing about that, but I never saw it. It was good.
Oh, it's an excellent TV series, half-hour episodes, kind of comedy drama. Toni Collette as the lead character, who plays a mother who has multiple personalities. So when she's under stress or duress, she will flip into these different characters that her family have to deal with. So it is a comedy, but it's also kind of addressing a serious mental health issue that this woman has.
I feel like that is clearly Diablo Cody's USP, is being able to tackle quite serious, quote unquote, issues, but do so very much through the people and the characters who she's portraying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the thing that's so incredible about Juno is that very few films, right from the minute you meet the characters, you really understand who they are completely. And they surprise you, but the sense of who they are just feels so clearly defined and so well drawn. There's even this moment where the stepmom, Bren, she says something, why are you going out there to East Jesus Nowhere? Which also apparently then became the title of a Green Day film after this movie came out, because they love this expression. But I remember thinking, when she said that, just this flick of oh yeah, I could so see her being a Christian and going to church. And then later on in the movie, Juno just is mentioning things in passing, says, I could do so much more fun, go to Brent, my stepmom's Unitarian church. There are just these little things where there's this consistency of the character. She, you can just really feel that Diablo Cody knows these characters, know who they are. They're definitely based on people in her life. I feel they feel so real, and there's this richness to them, and that comes through in everything in the film. It's not just her. I think Jason Reitman, the fact that they understand each other so well, and he really understood that story, really comes through, because everything kind of aesthetically, even the soundtrack, it all ties together and complements the characters that we see.
You could tell me that it was written and directed by the same person. That's how well in tune it seems to be with material. So that's the sign of a good pairing of a director-writer, that they clearly both very much keyed into the same aesthetic, the same atmosphere. Yeah.
I was thinking, which is the B plot and which is the A plot? Because actually everything is sort of on a par and sort of weaves together in a very nice way. But anyway, what did you think of the relationship between Juno and Mark, the man who's in the couple who wants to adopt this baby. What did you think of that storyline?
Yeah, it's a bit like, it's just, I don't know how to be more intellectual, just be like, yeah, it's skating on thin ice, maybe. Just feels like inappropriate. What would your wife say if she was in the room, kind of thing? But
did you see anything in her? Because it's obviously, like, I read Jason Reitman describe it as their relationship is about them both being attracted to the other's age rather than the person, or it being like a romantic interest. But Juno is exploring and interested in the idea of being older. You know, she's doing this incredibly grown-up thing of having a baby, and she's like, as she says, like being furniture in this grown-up couple's life. And then on the flip side, Mark's character is seemingly, as the film goes on, more and more unsettled by the reality of having a child, and instead is looking back at his life and wanting to be in a band again, wanting to be a teenager like Juno. I don't know, like, what did you think of that storyline?
I mean, yeah, I liked it. To me, I saw the storyline more as Juno just checking that she was okay with this guy raising her kid. Like, she wanted her kid to have a cool dad. That was what I took from the kind of what they're working each other out a little bit. And I guess he's almost figuring the same. Like, what's the actual mother of my child? Is she a cool person? It felt like they were just wanted to make sure that she had her child was going to be in quote unquote safe hands, because I don't think she bonded initially as much with the mother played by Jennifer Garner. I mean, I think I've not seen Jennifer Garner in many films, but I think she's great in this. She kind of totally nails it.
Yeah. I think it's her best performance. Not that I've seen that many movies of hers, but...
Yeah, I mean, she just absolutely nails it as this kind of like high-achieving, but a bit cold-seeming kind of alpha woman character. I don't know, but she plays it pitch perfect. But I think I love the scene where Juno bumps into her in the shopping mall, because she sees how much she really wants this child, how much, whereas Mark doesn't, but Mark's more her kind of person. She'd be friends with that, but like she actually would love that child so much. I don't know, it was interesting to see. It's interesting to see that how they counterpoint each other, both their attitudes towards having Juno's kid.
Yeah, I thought it was, again, it's like so impressively done, because that scene where Juno first meets the couple, and they're both dressed in this similar way, this kind of, what does he call it? Uptight yuppies, he describes them as, jokingly, to Juno. And that's what they come across as. You get this idea that they live in this perfect, wealthy suburban area, and they have like a perfect life, and Juno and her dad, in contrast, you know, like are in plaid and a bit more kind of messy and normal, really.
Yeah.
Seeming. And
absolutely.
And the interesting thing is that, like, the minute Juno speaks to Mark on his own, they have this like rapport, and they're like just immediately like vibing with each other. And whereas in contrast, even though this is something that they're doing as a couple, Mark and Vanessa, they don't seem to have any rapport at all. Like, it feels awkward every time they're in a scene together.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's something very, very relatable about that, of like when you see couples that are just like, there's something going on in their relationship because they're not at ease with each other. There's some tension there that is like unspoken, you know, and the contrast was quite like jarring even from the very beginning. The fact that the minute Vanessa walks in on Mark and Juno with their jam session, and he like immediately jumps up like he's been caught. It's like, why are you scared of being found playing a guitar in your own home? You know, what's going on in that relationship? And so I just think it's like pitch perfect characterization. You know, it feels like so plausible, which is why I can't believe that this film, like, there was this huge like Juno backlash when it came out, this whole thing about how it wasn't realistic, like no teenager speaks so intelligently this kind of thing that's like dissing of the quips in the movie. Like, what is that?
I mean, you know, but she's way quippier than I could ever be, than any of us could ever be in reality. But I mean, I don't know. It's a film, isn't it? Don't we want to see? It's like, you know, you go to see a particular kind of film for having quippy characters. You know, yes, it didn't seem realistic, but then it's a film, and it worked in the world of the film. It was nice to have this central character who seems a bit more worldly wise, a bit, you know. They're kind of more together than I feel I am, you know what I mean? So it's nice to see that kind of character.
Yeah, she's kind of like Most Fruitful Yuki, the pregnant superhero in the comic book that Mark gives her at the end. She's like a slightly heightened version of our dream teenager, I think. And also, like, yeah, it's a film and it's a comedy. So, like, those quips are just there to make us laugh, and they do make me laugh. I love the way she speaks in the movie. I get that for some people it might be a bit irritating, but I sort of felt like, I mean, I don't think that Superbad is like a super plausible way, like, you know, the dialogue.
Never seen it, but
it's a great movie. But like, that is another film where, like, you know, there is quippy, quick dialogue between them, and like, it didn't really get the same criticism. Like, I do think this is very much a criticism of a woman character speaking like that a teenage girl wouldn't be so smart. I was like, it's a comedy. It's not, and everything. And this is the thing. It's just what annoys me about it is that everything else in this film, I think, is like totally plausible and feels so true. And anyway, either way, does it really matter? Do we need things to be like totally plausible all the time?
Of course not. No. In the world of the film, it totally fit in. Like, it's a heightened film. Everybody's a bit quippier in the film. Everybody just kind of says the best thing to say at the time. That's kind of that's good writing, I think. But yeah, I mean, I didn't realise it had a bit of a backlash because, I mean, obviously it did great guns at the box office. God damn. Any production company would love that. 7 million budget, 232 big ones. Oof,
I know. When I first read that, okay, I have a bit of an issue with, guys, I'm dyslexic, but it particularly comes out in like numbers. I often mix up numbers and do stupid things with numbers. So when I saw 232 million written out with all the zeros, I was like, is this my dyslexia acting up? That can't be. It can't have made that much. But it was absolute smash. And I guess that's also part of it, right? Like a small budget movie that breaks out and is everywhere. Because I remember it really was everywhere. And there was this like huge marketing push around the film. And also, and you know, Diablo Cody won the Oscar for Best Screenplay. You know, it was like definitely the film of that year, I think. And so it's kind of inevitable, I guess, that a few people are going to come back and argue against it. You know, it's easy to take the opposite perspective, I think.
Yeah, and you know, but it's just, well, God, back in the day when a little small character piece could get quarter of a billion, at the box office. Just nowadays, I think that kind of thing will go to Netflix and probably just kind of, you know, get lost in the mix. This is the other thing that people are saying about streaming is films just get lost in the mix. You know, they don't put lots of money advertising individual films like a studio will pushing cinematic release. So yeah,
you're right. I could so see this film being made for Amazon and then going into cinemas for 2 weeks tokenistically and then just going to streaming and being a big hit on streaming, but still it's a real shame.
It's true. Streaming, I mean, no one makes some money on streaming. What I want to see is $250 million in my bank account from, get this, crazy business model, people paying money for tickets to go and see a film.
Because, you know, also the movie being a small budget movie, when Jennifer Garner signed on, she agreed to rather than take her normal fee, she would do it by a percentage point, you know. And so to this day, that movie, she did that because she didn't think the film was going to make any money, but wanted to make it. And instead, this film has continued to pay out to her for like years since. And sort of in a similar vein, this movie really did make everyone in the movie's careers. It changed everyone's careers. You know, it was, as we were saying, Diablo Cody's first screenplay, and she's gone on to have like a really solid career. Jennifer's Body, Tully, you know, so many movies. And Jason Reitman, like, he's a pretty solid, like well-known director, but he wasn't really a big name at that point. And this film just like completely changed that. And Michael Cera too. I mean, I think that moved him into being like the like recognizable known actor that he is today.
Oh, absolutely,
so,
yeah. Oh, but Jason Reitman, I don't want to. He's taken over the family business. I want to get him back out of the family business.
What do you mean?
Well, his dad directed Ghostbusters, and now he's directing Ghostbusters. It's like the family business.
I didn't know
Ivan Reitman's his dad.
I knew that his dad made Ghostbusters. I didn't realize he did the new Ghostbusters.
Yes, yeah, Jason Reitman's done the last two, which I saw the first one of the two, and it was okay, but, not the best use of his talents. That's the sad thing, but also, man's got to pay the bills.
Well, I know, but I mean, when I remember him talking about Juno and saying that, it didn't make sense to make movies for money. You're never going to succeed that way. He should have heeded his own advice, really. Because I mean, what I love about his back catalogue
Are you going to hold him accountable to a DVD commentary from 15 years ago? I think you should.
Well, I'm just saying, he was right then, and his own back catalogue has probably proven that point. But it's when you think about the other movies he made around that time, Thank You for Smoking and Up in the Air, I feel like they are kind of, Juno is a slightly different tonally and kind of aesthetically to these movies. But there is like a kind of connection, I think, between them of, again, like the grounding of the story is like a big kind of issue, and then it's following these kind of smart, like funny characters who are very human as they like navigate that. And I like that as like a blueprint for a film, so I hope he goes back to that kind of thing.
He is hoping. I wonder what Diablo Cody's got lined up next for us.
Well, she wrote Lisa Frankenstein, which came out a few months ago in the UK. I haven't seen it yet, but I was thinking as part of a like Frankenstein universe, we should watch this. Like, we could even do like a series on it, honestly, between that and, Poor Things and all these films that are influenced by that book. There could be something in it.
Do the Kenneth Branagh Frankenstein with Robert De Niro as the monster. Oh. Bloody hell. Okay.
And at another point, we should definitely talk about Jennifer's Body, her other big hit.
I really want to.
I've never seen it.
I've never seen it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but it sounds great.
Yeah, and it's got this, it's like part of the like pantheon of films about like bisexuality that explores these issues in like an incredible way. And like I always see it talked about, but I've never actually watched it. So we'll need to come back to that one for sure.
I thought it was a horror film. It's both. Okay.
Yes, it is definitely a horror film.
Excellent. Just in case anyone was thinking it's going to be a nice little drama piece.
Yeah, no, again, a departure from Juno, I think. But almost you could say, like looking at this, okay, Juno, Jennifer's Body, Lisa Frankenstein, Tully, there's definitely a through line here. I think we've got some connection going on between like women and and what it is to be a woman, and also horror movies.
There we go. Let's keep investigating that thread. We'll figure out what the themes.
Yeah.
Something women, something horror?
Yeah, that was a very hot take, that one of mine. Okay, we'll work on it. We'll do the research. We'll watch the movies.
Excellent.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for listening to another episode of Groovy Movies.
And if you could find your way to giving us a review or leaving us a like, it all helps get the podcast out to a wider audience.
So we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Groovy Movies is produced and edited by us, Lily Austin and James Brailsford. And James also produced the theme music.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Groovy Movies Pod, or email us groovymoviespod@gmail.com.
For more information about the films discussed, check out the show notes.